Hello, my name is Ashley Jackson, and I am the owner and founder of Timeless Dream Events, and I am so excited to share my journey with you. And my book launch is going to be happening this June. I can't wait for you all to read it. It is called Lost, Travel, Found, Turning Pain into Purpose, and what that exactly meant for me throughout my life. It is a tale of love, loss, grief, and my caregiving journey, and also my Phoenix Rising journey. So I can't wait for you all to get your copy, but I just wanted to talk with you today about what you are going to read. Who is this book for? This book is for the travel seekers, caregivers, anybody looking to leave a dead-end job, anyone that has had any kind of loss in their family and how to cope and deal with grief. You will journey with me as you read my hilarious, heartbreaking, and inspiring story. It is sure to inspire you to want more, be better, and hopefully looking introspectively into your own life to seeing how you can chase your dreams, go after your heart's desire, and just loving life more, because that is so important. We don't know when our last breath is going to be, so I believe it's very important to take all the small moments, take all the big wins, and celebrate yourself, celebrate life. And that's what my business, Timeless Dream Events, does. So some of you may say, well, why? What is this book about? So we are sitting in my church. My father passed away suddenly about 10 years ago from a brain aneurysm. I didn't get a goodbye. I didn't get a one last I love you. It was one last breath and he was gone. But church meant a lot to him. It meant a lot to our family. He actually used to sit right behind me on the pulpit and preach from time to time. And I remember sitting in the pews and just looking at him in awe, like, my dad is the best ever. He can do all the things. He can talk to the multimillionaires down to the people that are cleaning toilets. I mean, he made you feel like you were $1 million no matter what your station in life. And when he passed away, the line of people that came to see him, let me tell you, it was 5 to 6 blocks long just to come see my dad and pay their respects to him and my family. But let me tell you, it wasn't easy. I was a daddy's girl through and through. So the day that my pastor came to the door to tell my mom, brother, and I that my dad was no longer here, it's like my whole world stopped. It stopped spinning. I lost my breath. I couldn't catch it. My mom instantly sank to the couch, so I consoled her. And my brother was standing there in amazement, like, this isn't real life. I didn't know what else to do but to spring into action, being there for my mom, for my brother, helping make the arrangements to send my dad home to his glorious heavenly home. And those moments weren't easy, but I knew I had to get through them for him. He would have expected me to take care of my mom, to take care of my brother. And I tried my best to get through those moments in the way that I knew how to. You know, I was working a job at that time that was not fulfilling me in life. I was also grieving, or really the lack thereof grieving, because I had to be strong. I couldn't be weak. I couldn't show any fear. And just trying to cope every day, waking up with a hole in my heart. It was not easy. I know I'll say that time and time again. For those of you that have had a great loss in your life, this will resonate with you. You know what it feels like to have that emptiness right here in your heart, and nothing will fill it in. And just trying to navigate each day with the sorrow, with the loss, and unfortunately not taking care of yourself. I didn't take care of myself. I totally burnt out. I had all kinds of physical ailments hit me at once. One of them being gaining weight. You know, it's the side of things that we don't talk about, grief, that it can do such a number on you mentally, spiritually, and physically. And I just want you to know that you are not alone. I hear you, I feel you. But at some point, you have to take up your armor and realize that you have to fight for yourself and your sanity. Losing my dad was probably one of the hardest things that I've gone through in this lifetime. I was 25 years old. It wasn't fair. We had so much more life to live together. He was never going to see me walk down the aisle. He was never going to see grandkids. My mom had to walk through the rest of her life by herself and not see the love of her life anymore. Why? Why? That's not fair. So when I finally realized that my dead-end job wasn't fulfilling me, I made plans to save money so that I could get out of it. You know, my dad was really big on chasing your dreams, chasing your heart's desires, and I decided to put in the work for that. I saved up money to quit and go traveling. I have always been curious about travel, as you know, my mom and my dad actually took me on my brother and I first trip to Disney 25 years ago. And from that first plane ride, I think I was hooked. And the more I got to travel to different states, to different countries, I realized there was more to this world than just America, than just the USA. And I wanted more of it. My thirst for travel was starting to become insatiable. So when I did quit, many of my friends weren't surprised. Many of my work friends were not surprised. My mom, my boyfriend at the time, Troy, were so supportive. They said, please go take this time for yourself. You have to figure out what makes you happy, what brings you joy. You have to grieve fully because it's tearing you apart physically and mentally. So that's what I did. And that's where the travel seekers portion of the book is so interesting. It's so fun. There were high points of my travels. There were low points of my travels. Many of you listen to some podcasts that I've been on, and many of you supported me when I was blogging during that trip that I took. I called it my world purpose trip. And I was trying to find my purpose. That's what I was trying to do because I didn't know. Some of my identity was wrapped up in my father, and with him being dead and gone, I didn't know. Looking to the left, looking to the right, I didn't know where to look for my purpose. So I thought this was the way. Go traveling and find my purpose. And I'll never forget when Troy and I flew out to Los Angeles as I was about to embark on my trip. And when he kissed me goodbye, he told me that he would be there for me when I got back and to please take care of myself and have the best time. But please come home. So throughout my journey with traveling the world, I went from Fiji to Australia to Southeast Asia to Greece and Croatia. I went to about 20 different countries on my world purpose trip. And the things that I learned from that trip, most importantly, was the strength that I didn't know I had, that I didn't know that I could muster. Traveling as a solo woman, and specifically a solo Black woman, through certain countries was hard, but I did it. It was some of the most fun and rewarding times that I've had in my life up until that moment. And I just knew if my dad could have saw me during that trip, he probably would have been saying, now why does she think she has to go all over the world by herself? Well, Dad, it's because of you. That's why I had to go all over the world to travel, was because of you. You know, I credit him and my mother to starting that insatiable thirst with that first Disney trip. And just the nuggets of wisdom that I learned along the way from people that I met. Some people, we didn't even know each other's languages, but we just laughed, pointed, hugged, and it filled me with so much warmth, even more so than if we did know each other's languages, if we even knew what each other was saying. And those are the things that you'll read about as part of the travel portion of the book, of my different views of certain countries that I went to, how I may have been treated because of my skin color, because I'm a woman, through different countries. You know, I was not naive enough to realize that I was probably the first Black person some of these people may have seen. So they were curious. They wanted to take pictures, take videos. There's even a funny story about someone placing their baby in my arms, and they were trying to tell me they wanted a picture, and I had to sit there with this baby in my arms. I had no idea who they were.
And my brother will always joke with me and say, you are probably hanging up on somebody's wall and people are looking at it with such awe and excitement. And I want to believe that. And that's okay. I was happy to navigate the world in the way that I chose to. And that's one of the main reasons why I fell in love with solo travel, was because I got to choose where I wanted to go. I got to choose what I wanted to do, to see, to eat. And just the variety of stories and the people that I got to meet is outstanding. And most of the people that I met along the way, I still talk to this day. And I love them for how they helped me. Because let me tell you, in the beginning of my travel, it was not fun. And you'll read about that in the beginning, towards the beginning of the travel section. How I thought, I'm hot stuff. I'm gonna go out here and travel the world and take all these pictures. And then where I end up, the first 2 to 3 weeks of my travel trip, you'll have to read about it to believe it. So, when I get back from my travels, I felt like I had gained this new sense of not necessarily purpose, but more of a burning passion for travel. And I had gained a new sense of strength that I didn't realize I had lost, I had needed. When you're solo traveling, especially as a woman, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to gain so much boldness, or else you might get taken advantage of. And when I came back home, I didn't realize that all the travel, all of what I've been through up to that point, that I was going to need for what was coming next. And, no one knows how life is going to play out for them. If anybody can tell you this, I can. I'm a testament to this. I don't know how my life is going to go. So I walk it out every day to the best of my ability, to the fullness of what my breath will allow me to. And when I got home, of course, my mom was ecstatic, but Troy was over the moon. We had been separated from each other for about 9 months. And when I came home, we got back into our, routine that, just the two lovebirds. And it's just so full of love. I don't know how else to explain it. That's all Troy has ever given me, is love and smiles, of course. And when I got home, we decided to go to Disney together. As many of you know, we went to Disney to celebrate the new year. So it was 2017, January 1st, 2017 is when Troy proposed to me by Cinderella's castle at Disney World. And I was in such shock. Like, I can't wait for you to read this portion in the book. It is, for those that know me, how easily I can be distracted. And when he proposed to me, it was the funniest story ever. So I can't wait for you to read that part. But, after my initial shock, I did say yes, of course, because how could I say no to that proposal? How could I say no to that man that knows me so well to propose to me at Disney, which is one of my happy places. It's one of my favorite places in the world to go to. So we get engaged, and we're starting to do our normal newly engaged things. Picking a date, picking colors, picking a venue. We just were so full of life and love. And we had picked out our venue and went on a trip to New York for my birthday. And that's when we started having a conversation, because he had been having a lot of headaches and nosebleeds. And when I looked at him, I could tell that there was something wrong with his forehead. There was something not right. So I said, after this trip, we're gonna go get you checked out. And after multiple tests, biopsies, all of those things, on March 28th of 2017 is when Troy was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma in stage 4 in his nasal cavity. It was a rare cancer in stage 4 at age 37. I couldn't believe my ears. I was in shock. I was, excuse me, doctor? What? We just got engaged 2.5 months ago, and now you're telling me my fiance has a rare cancer in stage 4? Like, how can this be? And furthermore, I'm already screaming in my head at God, like, why? Why? My dad is already gone. Why am I getting thrown this curveball with my fiance? Haven't I had enough? Haven't I had enough already? Why? That's all I kept thinking in my head. So, beating that path up and down the highway, doing all the things that you do for someone you love, that you're caring for. I was the breadwinner, the cook, the cleaner, the nurse. I didn't have any medical background. My background is business and HR. I had no clue. So the nurses would have to show me how to, help him with certain medical devices. And I'm scared and freaking out, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what if I stick him by accident? Or what if I hurt him? And Troy was always right there telling me, comforting me, encouraging me, don't worry, you're doing such a great job, Ashley. No one else can take care of me like you do. So that gave me confidence that I needed. I thought I had gained a lot of confidence during my trip, but then being thrown into this new adversary, it was hard. I felt like those building blocks that I had built up were crumbling apart, were crumbling down. And, cancer, everyone has been affected by cancer at some point in their lives. I hate that word. I hate cancer. It takes so much away from who you love. It takes away from their everyday, normal activities that they were used to. Troy and I were avid runners. He couldn't run with me. So I stopped running, gained weight again. There was so many things. Traveling. We had so many travel plans for our first year of engagement that we wanted to do. Couldn't do it because he was too sick. I was in this, in sickness and in health, before I even took the vow. Those moments were hard because it was me on the outside looking in. And I know you might compare yourself to your friends, to your family, And I'm here to tell you, don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't do it. I worried myself trying to compare myself to my friends that were living their lives. I was 30 years old. I was supposed to be enjoying an engagement party and all the things that come with being engaged. But instead, I'm sitting in a treatment chair next to Troy. It's really hard, and it's devastating to see the life that I thought Troy and I were going to have totally got blown away. It wasn't going to happen. Cancer changes everything. It sucks. It really does. But Troy and I would try to find the little pieces in each day that we could, where we could laugh, hug each other. Those times were hard. It wasn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It wasn't easy. But if the loss of my father didn't teach me anything up to that point, at least it taught me to enjoy what time I have here on earth, to love, to hold onto the people that I love and adore. Because you don't know when your last day is, and you don't know when their last day is. And the whole time, we're going through this, I'm working, I'm planning our wedding, because Troy was adamant about still getting married on the day that we had chosen. Because he told me the only reason why he was getting treatment was so that he could see me walk down the aisle. So, of course, how could I deny that? And, December 2017 is when we found out that his tumor was growing back, because they previously had thought they had shrunk it down to the point where it'd be manageable. But it had started growing back. And that wasn't easy for us to hear. I had just bought my dress in November of 2017. And then the very next month, we find out that his tumor is growing back. So by this time, he had so many chemotherapy treatments and so many radiation treatments that they thought that surgery was the next best bet. And talking with multiple doctors, we knew the consequences, we knew the benefits, but obviously we didn't have a choice. There was no other choice but surgery at this point. So we went ahead with the surgery. And, sitting there with my mom, with my grandfather, with his mom, and just shooting the breeze, talking about anything under the sun until we ran out of words and were just silent. My mom and Troy's mom walked off to get some food, and that's when one of Troy's doctors came out of surgery, and my heart started beating. I'm like, why is he not in the surgery room? And he comes to tell me that Troy is doing great. The surgery was still being performed, but that when they opened him up and they realized how big the tumor had grown, it had eaten through most of his nostril bone, a part of his skull bone, and it was entering the eye socket. So they had to take his eye. He said, Ashley, we had to take his left eye. And I once again, I just sat there and I was amazed, like, is this my life? Is this real life? You really had to take his eye? Because his eye was functional, but because the tumor kept pushing and pushing and pushing, they were afraid that if they left the eye there, the tumor would just keep coming back and back and back. So they had to take it. And not only that, they had to take a portion of his muscle and skin from his back to put where his left eye was. This was hard. This was hard to hear. Again, I'm still his fiance. I haven't taken the vow in sickness and health yet. But I knew there was no one else for me in this world but Troy. So I thanked the doctor for coming out to tell me. And the surgery didn't end for another couple hours because of all the extensive cutting and taking out that they had to do. And, you know, I remember my grandpa sliding over towards me, and he grabbed my hand and he said, baby, for those that you know Roosevelt, baby, I know this is tough and we don't always know why God allows certain things, but Troy is alive. He's alive. And I just nodded because I was afraid to talk. I was afraid it was going to come out as a howling cry. So when we were able to go to Troy's recovery room, I just remember hearing all this beeping, and it's like from the machines. And mind you, he wasn't in a normal ICU unit because of all the extensive work that they had to do. He was put in a burn recovery unit. So, there was 2 sets of doors that we had to walk through to secure this area. And I just remember walking through it like, wow, what am I walking into? What am I going to see in here? And I remember Troy's mom being to my side and my mom being behind me, and I walk in and see him because he's asking for me. He's telling the nurses, I want to see Ashley. I almost faint. Thank God my mom's behind me because she had to catch me. And I let his mom go in first, and I walked back out to the lobby area because I didn't want Troy to see me like that. He didn't need my tears in that moment. He needed my strength. And when I walked back in there, I just held his hand and I told him I loved him. And he was still in that anesthesia fog and he wasn't sure exactly all what happened. We told him about his eye. I don't think it registered in his mind. So, as the days went on, he was still in the burn unit, ICU. We celebrated. We brought in 2018 in the hospital together. We started 2017 at the top of the world and ended 2017 in the hospital. It wasn't easy, for all my caregivers out there that are going through it. I mean, just know you're not alone. Please hear me. You're not alone. You know, Troy was not happy about his eye, which who would be? You know, I couldn't blame him. He had to work through that loss out on his own. And I told him I would be here no matter what. I had his back no matter what. And I know that comforted him. And, you know, in August 2018, after he had had another round of chemotherapy and radiation, Troy and I got married. August 11th, 2018, one of the happiest days of my life. We got married right in here, right behind me again. And, you know, we felt all the love. And it was just an amazing day. Not only did we get married, but it was also a celebration of the fact that Troy made it. He was here. And, you know, his doctors were amazed at him too. And when we went on our honeymoon and we came back, come to find out, they wanted to do another surgery. And the second surgery, they had to open his skull bone back open, and they had to take more of his skull bone and a part of his brain this time. But in March of 2020, he was finally deemed cancer-free, thank God. But in that moment, I was happy, but I also wondered, well, what does that mean for me? What am I supposed to do now? Because we had taken all this time. I had gone through the caregiver burnout. I had physical ailments. You know, mentally, I was distraught. You know, you as a caregiver, if you're listening, you know what that feels like. So I had to figure out what my purpose was going to be now, because my purpose for the previous 3 years was Troy and his treatment. Through my pain came my purpose. And that's when Timeless Dream Events was born, where I help anybody, but specifically the terminally and chronically ill and their loved ones, celebrate life and love, whether that be with a wedding, birthday, shower of any kind. And I wake up every day filled with purpose and joy and excitement to help those in need. Being a caregiver advocate, helping those that can't seem to grasp their way through life according to their caregiver's journey. And I'm so excited to now be able to share my book with you, Lost, Travel, Found. So this is where my dad spent many of his days growing up, in this park, but specifically right over there on the basketball court. He thought he was going to be like the next big NBA star, but most importantly, you know, the love that he had for the game growing up, and that is, you know, so special to me because now Troy loves basketball and all the sports. And as I've said before, we were avid runners. And my dad always talked about chasing dreams. And I meshed those two ideas together to have a 5K run in my dad's memory. And the proceeds go to a scholarship for the Piqua area high school students. And what's so amazing about this race is that it starts here in the park and it loops around to the cemetery, where we go and we can wave to my father's Holiday Inn, or what I like to call his gravesite, the Holiday Inn. And we run through the park, and the race actually ends right here at my dad's tree that some of his basketball buddies planted for him. And so this tree, I like to come to it as just a testament of his strength. It takes a long time for trees to grow, and I feel like it's taken me a long time to grow, but eventually you grow in strength, you bud, and become fruitful and prosper. This is my dad's gravesite, or what I lovingly like to say, his Holiday Inn. And I want you to see this for two reasons. One, I distinctly remember him bringing me to this cemetery when I was younger and showing me all the grave sites and telling me that the cemetery houses the most untapped potential. So many people in these grave sites had so much potential and untapped purpose that they never got to use. And he wanted to use it as a lesson point to show me to keep chasing my dream, go after my heart's desire, find my purpose, and share it with the world. And that is what I have done. And two, Troy, when I was out on my world purpose tour, Troy came here to ask my dad, because he never got to meet my dad. He came here to ask him if Skip would allow him to have my hand in marriage. And the way Troy described it, it was like the clouds rolled away and the light shined through. And he took that his answer of, yes, you and Ashley should be together. And I just love that story when Troy tells it to me, because it warms my heart to know that my dad is in heaven and is loving this union of Troy and I. And we get to chase our dreams together. There was a point where I thought Troy was going to end up here, but he's not. And we get to chase our dreams together. Purposefully driven dream chaser. That is what my dad was. That is what he instilled in me. And I continue to walk his legacy out. So here we are, where Troy and I became fast friends over our love of movies. And of course, as I've told you throughout the video, and as I will tell you throughout my book, our friendship turned into something more. It turned into marriage. And this is actually a picture of us at our engagement photo shoot. And it's in front of a movie theater. We wanted to be able to broadcast our love to the world and show it as a movie. Our lives have seemed like a movie. And just like my book title is Lost, Travel, Found, I've had great loss in my life. The loss of my dad, the loss of the life that I thought Troy and I were going to have. And I've traveled all over the world. And what I have found is my purpose, and I'm able to share it with the world with this book, Lost, Travel, Found. And I am so excited for you all to read this. Please grab a copy. It's going to be worth it. There's so much that you haven't heard, and I'm so excited to hear what you all have to think and say about this beautiful, beautiful book. And I hope it inspires you to get up off your seat and do something impactful and intentional with your life. As my father liked to say, you can either have your butt prints in the couch or your footprints in the sand. Are you going to go chase your dreams?